Hello, welcome to the podcast. Today on our show we have Dave from the Pursuit Institute. He's been on the show before, but he's working on another project which we're going to get into in a second. Um, this project is something that's unfortunately not been talked about enough, especially with the how prevalent the internet is these days. Everyone's on it. So from social media to online gaming, it's definitely everywhere. So without further ado, I guess welcome to the show. Could
Thanks, Isaac.
you
Appreciate it.
explain a bit about what you're working on and
Yeah,
why?
yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, right, you recognize that I'm here from the Pursuit Institute, but about 10 and a half, 11 months ago, I guess a little bit more backstory. Prior to doing all this, I was a police officer for about 15 years. When I left policing, I was working in our intelligence unit, working in street crimes and human trafficking investigator. And when I made the decision to leave policing, I knew that I didn't want to leave, policing entirely. I just wanted it to look a little bit different. And, as I gained a lot more knowledge and on the online world and course creation, I saw a big opportunity there where there's a huge gap missing when it came to parents and youth both understanding and recognizing the dangers of internet child exploitation. So about 11 months ago, I approached a former colleague of mine, Gary, and Gary's been a police officer for 23 years. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here today. He's got another speaking engagement that he's at. Uh, Gary, over his 23 years, has spent over half of his career actually actively working in internet child crimes and child sexual abuse. So I went to Gary and said, listen, like I got this idea here. There's a lot in the media right now. There's a lot of kids being harmed out there, as he knew all too well. And I said, what's not really happening is there isn't a single one place where parents can have all the education that they need when it comes to online and digital safety for their kids, when it comes to understanding how social media platforms work, when it comes to understanding how like the most popular online games work and the dangers that exist within them, how they can understand and recognize if there's a luring and grooming attempt against their child, whether it's online or in person, how they can understand what control measures and what technology control measures they can implement, how they develop a sense of trust within their household and their environment with their kids to ensure that they are protected. One thing that we recognize with youth is that technology is the way of the future. Our goal and our purpose is not to give parents this education and then have them immediately go and like rip this technology out of their kids' hands and say, you can't use this stuff. It's terrible. It's bad. There's bad people out there and all these things. It's the exact opposite of that, right? We know that the kids need to understand how technology works, right? They need to know how social media works. There's so many job opportunities when you understand how social media works. You need to know how to code and create. There's so many job opportunities. So if the technology is going to be in their hands, what can we do to educate them to stay safe in the meantime? There is an estimated 5 million online predators, with 500,000 of them estimated to be active every single day. And less than 15% of parents know what their children actively do in the online world. And when you mix those two together and you take a child who may not have the proper internal controls or may not recognize if something bad is happening right before their eyes, that it then is where you end up with them in a situation where they've maybe self-exploited themselves, where they're now being held as, what we call a digital hostage in the hands of somebody in the online world. Could be in their same city, could be across the country, could be in a different continent altogether. And when they start making demands to these youth to send them more images, more videos, if you don't do this, I'm going to share it with your friends list. If you don't do this, I'm going to post all of this online. If you don't send me money, right, they're being sextorted, right? That it's such a dark and dangerous place for youth to be. And there's a big fallout that happens with that when that occurs, that if a child now has done this, it leads to depression and anxiety. It can lead to substance abuse. And there's countless stories in the media of children who have taken their own life because they don't see any other way out and they don't know how to find the help that they need. And our focus and our goal is entirely on the education so this can be prevented, right? And I think, most kids know, okay, I probably shouldn't take a picture of myself, this, that, or the other thing. But what happens is an online predator, like, they just don't go on there with the sense of, I have to win today, right? I started talking to Isaac today and I got to get Isaac to send me something, or started talking to Dalton. No, they've been talking to Isaac for weeks or months or even a year, building this trust and relationship with them until finally, they say, okay, I'm going to send you something that you've been asking me for because I trust you, right? And they think it's somebody else that they're talking to, right? A male might think he's talking to another female in his age range. He doesn't know that he's talking to a 45-year-old man. Or a female might think she's talking to a boy in her age range, but she doesn't know that she's talking to a 70-year-old man. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't know age, demographics. It's such a worldwide problem that parents need to know and youth need to know how to protect themselves in the online world.
100%. I mean, I do social media as a job, right? And I'm very aware of, I mean, being in the online space for like only like 3 or 4 years now, I've gotten a lot of messages from people, and it's like, all right, that's a red flag, of course. Obviously, that's a fake person, but like, I know that, and I definitely think that people, or younger kids, definitely just take it at face value.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've definitely gotten messages from just people I know, friends, family, and they're like, is this person real?
Yeah.
I take one look at their profile. I'm like, do not reply to this message.
Yeah.
Do not,
Yeah.
you know?
And in the online world too, that comes with a whole host of other things like fraud, right? There's things that
Yeah.
are
Oh, yeah.
catfishing, like, there's a lot of different scams. Our focus is around the sexual exploitation side of things. And that, but the amount that happens out there where fake profiles are created or identities being stolen, people being fraudulently taken for money in a variety of ways, right? It's such a dangerous world out there when it comes to the online space.
Oh, yeah. 100%. Um, I'm just curious, like, where do you start? Like, what's the start of this program, right? I mean, it's out there. It's a recognized problem.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
so prevalent.
So we are our like parents can do one of a couple things, right? Like I said, less than 15% of parents truly know what their kids do online. Um, and it's difficult for parents. It's overwhelming because they don't have kids know technology better than us, right? Like, let's face it, like, our children know technology better than mom and dad generally do. And so parents are just kind of sit there wishful, hopeful, thinking that my child won't do it or it won't happen to me until it does. And then when it does, it's heartbreaking to see what happens. And it's tough for a parent to go, okay, where do I start? Okay, how do I search these things? How do I figure out what my kids are doing? So what we have done is basically taken every possible thing that a parent or a youth or a child may want to know and put it all into a portal with tons of resources and education. For us, it starts with, we've got a 6-lesson flagship course. It's called Online Digital Safety. And in that course, we start talking about topics like social media, risks of having active cameras, identifying luring and grooming techniques that somebody may use against your child, getting into external controls. By that, I mean, like, what kind of Wi-Fi routers or content filtering systems or alerts can you put in place to help add a layer of protection for your children in the online world. We then take all of those topics and then have broken it down into, I said in our first one that we talk about social media. Then we take social media itself and we've broken down all of the main platforms that kids use: Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram. Those are your primary ones, but we dive into a lot of other areas. We break down games that they love, Roblox, for example. And we're teaching parents right from the start, okay, this is how you would create an account on Roblox or TikTok. These are the settings that you need to have. Here's the dangers that exist within this platform. Here's how this platform can be used for good. But here's how an online predator is going to leverage this platform to build a relationship with your child to advance their own specific needs in order to build a relationship and then attempt to exploit them. And so when we can show parents how these things work, and then parents then, like the big thing it comes down to now is, like I said, our goal isn't for parents to go in and rip technology out of their kids' hands. Our goal is to give parents the tools that I can then go and say, hey, Dalton, we need to have a chat about, the online world, right? Not here to change much about what you do, but as a parent, I have a responsibility to have a discussion with you around this. And so we've created courses for parents on how to foster trust in your household. We've created online family agreements for families to implement. We've created education for youth in the ages of 6 to 8, 9 to 11, 12 to 15, and 16 plus. So we can actually help the parents do the education with the children, right? And it might be as parents as simple as saying, look, Dalton, do you know anything about, with the really young kids, we don't call them online predators, they're called online bad guys, right? We try to do it in an age appropriate way, so we're not instilling fear in a 6 or 7-year-old. The reality is, though, is at that age, parents have to start having this difficult conversation with kids. If they're putting the technology into their kids' hands and saying, here, go play Roblox for a little while, you better be talking to them about the dangers that exist out there. And because it's a difficult topic, we've created the courses to, for mom or dad to give to 6-year-old Dalton and say, here, Dalton, I'd like you to watch this course and learn some things. So when Dalton's playing a game online and somebody reaches out to him and starts, using techniques that an online predator may use to start to build a relationship, that even a 6-year-old child might go, red flag, I was taught about this. I know that this might not be right, and I need to go talk to mom and dad about it. Or grandma and grandpa, whoever it is that they live with, right? Whoever their caregiver is. But we try to make it so simple and easy for them that every possible layer of protection is put in to stop an online predator in their tracks.
Yeah. Ooh.
It's a heavy topic.
Yeah.
It is, right? Our focus, right? And like a big part of our core vision is to be able to, we see being able to bring an end to internet child exploitation. But our real big belief is that children deserve to grow up in a safe and secure environment, online and offline, and that we can ensure that the internet is a place where children can learn, where they can explore, where they can connect, and without having that fear of harm or exploitation, where parents don't have to fear that their child's going to have an exploitation attempt. 1 in 5 children receive an online grooming or exploitation attempt. 1 in 5. 20% may not sound like a lot, but that number's only going to increase.
This, just from being online and just paying attention, I think it's not only important for kids to know about this stuff, but parents and adults to be aware of this as well, because there are definitely acts like this going on, targeting just adults in general, in the same niche of target, right? So if anything, like, people should be getting this course to learn, obviously to protect their kids, but in a real sense to protect themselves as well.
Absolutely.
So go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, when parents even understand themselves, they may pull information out of it for their own use,
Right.
where they start to see, okay, I can take this, and a lot of things are applicable in a cross section in a lot of different variety of ways, because our main focus and topic is on internet child exploitation doesn't mean that a parent can't go, hey, I also recognize these attempts. So yeah, when somebody does try to add me to Facebook or to Instagram and I don't know them, but it looks like I know them, right? It's one of those things. I had this happen to myself. So about 8 months ago, a friend of mine reached out to me and he's like, hey, and he sends me a picture of this guy. He's like, do you know this guy? I said, no, why? He goes, look at his Facebook profile. And I did. And it was a picture of my daughter in his back profile picture. And I'm like, whoa, I'm like, what is this? Right. So I immediately, having, resources or friends, that are still police officers, I reached out to one that works specifically in our internet child crime unit. I was like, dude, I'm like, look at this. I'm like, so this guy had created a profile, made his name like David M. His last name was close to mine, but it wasn't mine. He had multiple pictures of my children. He had multiple pictures that I had taken from world travel that we had done and used them to create a profile. Then there's people on his profile page commenting on my child's photos. Look at her, she's really cute. Look at this, right? All these things. I was like, even though I know about this stuff, even though I thought I had all the layers of protection in place, I still became victimized in the online world. And even knowing what to do about it, I was still rattled. I'm like, this guy has taken everything. He has invaded my personal space and privacy. Now, turns out it was an overseas account, probably one of many that, somebody behind a computer screen has taken. So even the pictures that this guy, and this is actually, it's part of our course, when I showed this guy's picture in it, I'm like, does anybody know who this is? Because I'm like, I sure don't. But I'm sure that guy doesn't even know that his picture was being used for these purposes. Okay. And who knows where this attempt could have been? We ended up getting the guy's account pulled down, everything like that, like Meta, had blocked it and done all these things. But it was a really unnerving thing to see my children's pictures being posted in the online world. And that's a big thing now, especially with the use of artificial intelligence and all these things, right? If you've got recordings of your kids online and you're using their voices, if you've got pictures of them online, you just have to recognize there's an inherent risk that goes with that. There's a big scam like going on now where online predators can take your child's voice, utilize artificial intelligence technology, and create like a voice recording of your child's, calling you, like saying, Mom, Dad, I need help. I've been abducted. I don't know where I am, and all these things. And then, parent thinks that their kid's sitting in grade 6 science class at the time, and and that's where they actually are. But the scam is happening, and now, like, what does a parent do when that happens?
Yeah.
Wow.
Wild.
I was about to ask a question on AI. Yeah. Do you guys discuss that in your course?
We're touching on it. That is an area. So one big thing that we are super committed to in our future initiatives of this is building a research and technology team, research and development, for a couple of reasons. One, as technology changes, like say, for example, what a social media platform's privacy settings are now, or how a social media platform's used, it's going to change in time. And we always want to be on top of that and providing up-to-date relevant information for parents. If a new social platform comes out, we want to be able to be the first to research it and then give parents the information around that platform and the dangers that exist with it. We do start to talk about AI, and we're creating the education now on things like deep fakes and a lot of things where you can take somebody's facial image and apply it to whatever you want, right? You can create stuff that actually doesn't exist, and that's a big fight in the future that we have. Give you a really good example: child sexual abuse material. Formerly known, more commonly, I guess, known to people as child pornography. And I'll take a minute here to clarify the distinction between that. The term pornography would suggest that there's a certain level of consent that's been given by somebody to be filmed and produced in that manner. A child cannot provide consent. So it is not child pornography, it's child sexual abuse material. That's exactly what it is. And so before the internet came out, child sexual abuse material was traded through regular postal mail. Okay. And through some forward thinking, through some creative genius, people found a way, and it was almost completely eradicated, the trading and distribution of child sexual abuse material through mail. The internet comes out, 1993. And it's just been like this, like this, like this. And now it's like on a trajectory like this, right? Hundreds of millions of images and videos out there of children being sexually abused, being traded. And so our focus is, how can we recreate that creative line and way of thinking? And how can you begin to stop the distribution of it? How can you begin to identify offenders? How can you begin to identify children who are being harmed and bring them to a place of safety? So let's say we achieve that on this level right now, and we start making some headway in that. Now you have to deal with artificial intelligence, because people might go, okay, well, if I can't actually use a real child in this, I can still create a child through the use of artificial intelligence. We can still create this material, and we can still distribute it. Now somebody might argue and go, okay, well, a child's not actually being harmed though, right? So it doesn't make it right, but a child's not actually being harmed because they're using artificial intelligence. But let's look at it. Let's say it's now a parent has posted pictures of their child online and somebody's using their child's face. That child's being exploited. Even though it's not actually happening to them, they're still being exploited. Number one. Number two, 50% of people who are viewers, just a plain viewer of child sexual abuse material, 50% of them become hands-on offenders themselves. And we call this the slow fade. Most people don't just wake up one day and go, I want to look at a child being sexually abused. It starts by looking at, and I apologize if I don't want to be out of context here for your show, guys, but it starts at looking at regular legal pornography. And that then, begins to progress, and it's called the slow fade, where somebody's like, okay, what I'm currently looking at no longer satisfies me, and they go down this rabbit hole to the point where they eventually, we know this, and especially Gary knows this all too well from interviewing sex offenders, that they've told him, look, I know what I'm doing is wrong. I don't like that I view this material. I know it's wrong, but I'm addicted to it, and I can't help it. And so now you get to the point where somebody now becomes a hands-on offender. And sadly enough, that has led to children losing their lives from a hands-on offender, right? There's a great case. It's a Canadian one, and it's happened early 2000s. A girl named Holly Jones walking to a friend's house, and I apologize, I don't want to get any of the story out of context, so I'll be somewhat vague here, but walking to a friend's house, and there's an offender, and I won't use his name. Gary and I both take the view of, when you have an offender and you know their name, we don't use it because we don't want to give them any attention. They don't deserve it. But this man looks out his window and sees her walking by. He goes outside, he befriends her. He invites her into his house. Somehow he gets her in there, sexually abuses her for multiple days, strangles her, and then dismembers her into a couple of duffel bags and throws her in a lake. All because, and he admitted that he had an addiction to child sexual abuse material, and it no longer satisfied him the way that it should have. So he went to hands-on offending.
So this is progressive.
It's a very, very progressive thing, right? And I know our topic here is about internet child exploitation, but there's a direct correlation between them all. Whether somebody is self-exploiting themselves because they've decided to take an intimate image of themselves and share it with somebody, and now that begins to be shared online. When you have an online predator that's now forcing somebody to, as I said, called it earlier, being held as a digital hostage, and you have an online offender now forcing a child to take videos of themselves, so that person A can be sextorted, held, you owe me money or else I'm going to do this, or those images do start getting shared and start getting traded and shared as child sexual abuse material. And that whole fallout happens, right? This links into child sex trafficking. It links into sex tourism. It links into it's a massive web of how it goes, right? And our vision is there's companies out there who are very good at what they do on the technological level of trying to identify offenders, trying to identify victims. They're raising awareness. And the way I kind of like to say, I'm like, they're going straight for the heart. right? They're trying to rip that heart out, and that's tough. They're making a lot of headway. Our vision is, let's start with grassroots education. Let's start by bringing education into the average family's home. Let's create and develop an army of advocates, of parents, right? That's the thing. Gary and I have created this. We're parents just like everybody it is that we want to help. Let's create this army of advocacy of parents who say enough is enough. We will not tolerate internet child exploitation anymore. And that starts with that grassroots level of education, making sure that they are aware. So from there, we can begin to work upstream and eventually go for the heart of this problem. But we are starting from the ground up towards where it is that we want to go.
Yeah. I have one question. What's something that you might say to a family? Because I know a lot of these platforms that kids use. I mean, we've seen them. You have your. I'm trying to think of the term that they use, but basically age restrictions on platforms and different other safety precautions. Yeah. And maybe maybe parents, they're putting all of that on their kids, and they're making sure that everything's got an age restriction and that there's certain things that are blocked. How with them, I guess, how with the platforms, and your program, what would be some of the things that your program, and looking at it from your point of view, would help better protect versus what some families are doing right now? Because maybe they're doing all those things and they're thinking that they're safe and that they're
for sure,
they're making the right decisions.
So let's kind of break this down here in a couple ways. First of all, there's age restrictions and age verifications on a lot of platforms, right? When you create an account, but nothing is verified. So anybody, right, 50-year-old man can create an account saying that they are a 16-year-old boy, right? There's no take a picture of your, government issued ID to show how old you are. Conversely, a 11 or 12-year-old kid can create an account. There's what's a good example of this? Omegle. Have you heard of Omegle?
Yeah.
Online, it's an online stranger chat platform, and when you go on it, you need to click that you are above the age of, I believe it's 16 or 18. It's just a click of a button. You say that you are, and then you go on there. And Gary and I, we actually have some video examples, some screenshots of us going on there. And one cool thing that Gary, used to get to do, and the line of work that he did, was actually go on and initiate conversations looking for online predators and try to arrange meetings with them. We have created multiple examples, and I tell you, it happens like that. It's so quick. Hi, who are you? I'm a 14-year-old female. I live in Canada, or I live in Texas, or I live wherever. It doesn't matter. And, we started talking to the guy, and he's like, oh, I'm 23. And Gary will walk through, before the chat's, before the person does this is how well he knows what he does. He's like, okay, next, this person should be asking me this question or doing this. And it's like a freaking textbook. It's a textbook. And he just knows it, right? And it follows this exact, he's like, they're probably going to try to take the conversation to another platform because we're on the stranger chat now, he's like, I'm expecting them to give me an Instagram handle, not right now. And right immediately, the guy's like, hey, can we talk on Instagram? Here's my handle, get me here. Right. So one thing that an online predator will do is they'll try to take that chat and then move it over to somewhere else where they have more control over it. Mm-hmm. So parents now can implement, they can go on these, they can go on Instagram, they can go on TikTok and different things and implement privacy settings that their children have to follow. Some companies do it really well. Roblox, actually, I think Roblox does a fantastic job of this. For those who don't know, right, Roblox is an online digital game. There's over 40 million users on it. Every single game, Roblox consists of millions and millions of different games on there. All of the games are created by users themselves. Okay. Parents can go on the privacy settings for the kids, and first of all, the parent has to create a PIN code that you don't share with your child. And so they put in this PIN code 1234, whatever they make. And then they can go in and restrict, strangers or people that are not friends of my child cannot initiate conversation with them. My child cannot initiate conversation with anybody that's not on your friends list. And they can put certain levels of restrictions in place. And that's really good because a child cannot go in and switch those restrictions that they have. So there's a level of protection there. Now, something though that parents still may not know about Roblox, and it happens quickly where things get taken down quickly. And, a lot of these programs have both technology moderation and as well as human monitors that watch for this. But on Roblox, people create what's called condos, also known as sex rooms. And so a child is sitting there playing Roblox and they inadvertently end up in a game that's a virtual sex room. Now, it gets taken down quickly, but the damage has been done. Okay. And so now if a parent even says, well, my kid's not going to be allowed to be on Roblox anymore. And do you guys remember like Fortnite and all those games? I used to have like friends whose, their children would play these games. And like a big part to kids isn't even playing the game itself. They would spend hours watching videos of that game on YouTube. So now if you take the game out of the kids' hands, they go, okay, well, I'm just going to watch it on YouTube. At least I'm going to be a part of the game and the culture somehow, some other way. And you can find all sorts of crazy stuff on a lot of these games, videos that people created and then put on YouTube before YouTube takes them down. Okay. Give you another example, WhatsApp. People just think, oh, it's just a basic messaging platform. WhatsApp is one of the most dangerous things out there for kids to use as a chat. And it's one of the things that an online predator will try to move a discussion to with the child because there is no, it's encrypted. The chat's encrypted. You can have the chat disappear very easily. The messages can disappear. A person can have settings. So a parent can go in and put settings into WhatsApp to protect their child, but there's nothing stopping the child from going back and setting it back to its original settings. Other platforms, for example, if you have settings put in there, that's a set of, a standard way of protection. If there's a update to that platform, it can default back to its original settings. So you think you've got all the settings in place, but as soon as there's an automatic update that happens, it defaults back to its original settings, and that level of protection is not there anymore. So we take, the view of, listen, like we're not saying we're going to stop an online predator from contacting your child. We can't guarantee that. We can't guarantee, a lot of things. This is where having the level of trust with your child is so important, and having these conversations, because if I've at least had a conversation with my kid, and we don't laugh or joke about it, but like we kind of look at it and go, look, when I was a kid, I probably didn't have to worry about my parents having a talk about me about sex until I was like 13 or 14 years old. Now you have to have that conversation with your kid at a much, much younger age, so you can then talk to them about the dangers of the online world and what somebody may ask you to do. There has to be a level of understanding and knowledge there for the kids. So our main focus is with parents is like, look, you can't stop this necessarily from happening. And we know that technology is important for youth to use. So we want to make sure that you're having and able to have the conversations with these kids. So when or if something does happen, they go, uh-oh, mom and dad told me about this, or protection told me about this, right? Dave and Gary told me about this. And now I know what steps I need to take so it doesn't go any further.
I'm curious, what are some of the most prevalent platforms these people are using?
You name it. Honestly, Isaac, like name it, right? Instagram recently had 27 child exploitation networks taken down by Meta, and very vast, right? And so Instagram, like the workaround, and there's workarounds on all these platforms, right? Instagram, for example, people would use the hashtag cheese pizza or hashtag CP or an emoji of a slice of pizza to, it was code for child pornography. And again, I know I already discussed, it's child sexual abuse material, but that's, that was what it was code for. TikTok, right? And then, there's other ways in that these platforms are dangerous in a sense of trending challenges that come out, right? There's the big one on TikTok, and countless youth have lost their, lives. It's, it's kind of called death by misadventure. One was the blackout challenge, right? Where teens were, actively, they would choke each other. So the person blacked out. It's supposed to cause this like euphoric head rush, but it's taken the lives of children. Okay, like that's just one example, right? So, there's exploiting happens in a lot of different ways, and there's a lot of dangers. And we talk about these other dangers that exist beyond just internet child exploitation, so parents are aware that there's trending challenges. And if kids don't have the internal controls, again, this is the trust aspect. I have to have a conversation with my kid. Look, Susie and Johnny, I know you're 11 and 12, and, we talk, it's like balancing privacy and protection with your family. We know that you're on TikTok, and, we're okay with that, but we need to have a talk here because there's dangerous trending challenges that happen out there. And I just need to know, if you see these challenges, that you don't take part in them. Come talk to us about them. If you see something that seems kind of wild and crazy out there, come show me. Right? I'm never going to fault you for them. I'm never going to get mad at you about it. I'm never going to whatever. We're just going to have this level of trust that we can talk about it, because guess what? Maybe your friends don't have that level of trust with their parents. And maybe you see your buddies doing it. Come talk to me. I'll make sure your friends stay safe too. Okay. So it happens. There's no one platform that's the worst. They all have their inherent risks and danger. Now, I mean, is this happening on Pinterest or LinkedIn? Probably not. Right. It's going to be where an online predator knows where youth are hanging out. TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, Roblox, Minecraft, WhatsApp chat groups, right? A teen can go into WhatsApp. It's called WhatsApp directories. And a teen who's curious goes on and searches, WhatsApp sex chat. And now he can join a WhatsApp group where he can, where online predators can belong to and have instant access to your phone number. Right now, if you don't have your location services turned off on your phone, if you don't have, it's called EXIF data, EXIF, right? If I'm taking a picture, right, and I share it with somebody, they can see immediately where I am. There's a pin drop. This picture was taken at 123 ABC Street.
Wow.
Wild.
They say I was watching a few videos, and I was watching one of a guy that's been in prison for a while, but he was same thing. He was an exploiter, and he said that one of the things that he would look at was the relationship before he would go to try to even attempt something. He would look at the relationship between the kids and the father, and the kids and the mother. And so
100%.
when you say, and I just kind of wanted to emphasize it, having that relationship with your kids, I think that's, would you say that's ground-based one? I mean, that's foundation one.
Man, Dalton, so that's one of the things that an online offender will look for is like, okay, does this person have like a poor relationship with their kids, and can I be a person of trust for them? When I was talking earlier there that Gary and I have gone on for educational purposes to show people on Omegle and recreated some, not even recreated, like we just landed these chats, and you pretend to be your 14-year-old girl. And I need to point out here, like for anybody listening, please don't go on and do this stuff. Like if you don't know how to do it or how it works, you can get yourself in a lot of trouble. Like just don't. But, he would go on there, and one of the things he would be like is like, the person would be like, oh, let's talk on Instagram. He'd be like, oh, I lost my phone. I got in trouble. I'm really mad at my mom right now. Really mad at my dad. Door wide open for online prayer. Oh, really? Oh, that's too bad. Yeah, your dad's probably being a real jerk, eh? And they just feed into it. And so they look for that because it's like this person doesn't have somebody in their home that they can trust. Well, I'm going to be that person that they can trust. Right?
Jeez.
And they start talking to them. And we say, and this is one of the key factors that we talk about, is an online predators are patient. When you have 500,000 of them active every single day, they're not just talking to one person. They can carry on dozens of conversations at a time. And they've built background with people. They've been talking to people for weeks. So they don't have to win today with Isaac. right? They'll keep going until the time permits where they're like, hey, I've got Isaac in a place where he really trusts me now, and I'm going to start to advance this conversation. And there's a set of there's a MO that they follow, or a methodology that they follow to do that, right? They'll test the grounds. They'll start telling you some maybe minorly sexual jokes just to see your reaction to them. They'll start, maybe they'll lure you with the gifts. Hey, Isaac, did you get that Roblox gift card that I sent you the other day? Right? That's pretty cool, isn't it? Right? Dad doesn't do that for you, right? No, I really like you. You can trust me. But as parents need to win every single time. You cannot afford to lose, because when you let your guard down, that's when the door opens up, right? We talk about it. It's like, we used to, when I was growing up, I used to have to be, okay, if I got allowed to go to the park by myself, right? Parents would be like, just watch out for strangers, be careful, don't talk to anybody you don't know. If I'm at the grocery store with my parents, just if you're out of sight, out of mind, just for a few minutes from your parents, right there, that opens somebody like physically in person to get you. But we say, like, strangers are being invited into our homes now. They're in your kitchen, they're in your kids' bedrooms, they're in your living room, they're in the backseat of your car when you're on a family road trip. And it's all in your kids' hands. And we have a video that we've created. It's brilliant. Shows a mom, running up to the kids. Here's your devices, and the kids take them and run off to their bedroom. And then, like, the doorbell rings, and mom opens the door, and we've got the predator, who's like a ghost-like figure, walks right through mom, follows the kids right into the bedroom. And we talk about that, right? They're coming into your home now.
I like that. That's the I think every time a parent asks Gary V how to his advice to kids on social media, or parents trying to help their kids, his advice is always build their self-esteem.
Yeah.
Build that relationship.
You have to, as a parent, like, a couple things, right? Like, don't yell at your parents, right? It just becomes or don't yell at your kids. It just becomes a power struggle, and it demeans them, and it lowers their self-confidence. Tell your kids you're proud of them for any accomplishment that you can, right? There's a fine line there, right? Like, because I really believe in, like, I'm not cut from the cloth of, like, everybody gets a participation ribbon. Just, I believe in, like, you have to build kids for resiliency to winning and losing in life. But no matter whether they win or lose, or how they do, or if they come home with a test from school, or if they do a project, look for opportunities to tell them you're proud of them. Because if you don't, somebody else will. And that somebody else could be somebody that you do not want connecting with your child. Right? Other advice we give to parents: you don't have to worry about strangers. Worry about people who act strangely. There's a difference between the two. Uncle Joe that comes over at Thanksgiving might act strangely towards your child. Right? We have countless. I can tell you all of the stories. Well, I can't, but how many stories we have of exploitation happening from family members or family acquaintances right before the parents' eyes. Slowly building a relationship with the child. Okay? If you don't tell your kids you're proud of them, somebody else will see that, and somebody else will, and they'll take their trust from you.
What are some warning signs for,
like, that kids would exhibit?
Kids, family members, just friends.
So
like
as far as kids, right? Like, kids might show an immediate or sudden change in behavior. They might have a change in their demeanor. They might become more secretive, right? Like, when you walk into the room, they're quickly hiding their phone, or, they look like they're scrolling out of stuff really quickly. No, I'm not doing anything, right? Don't worry about me. You might see some form of inappropriate communication with somebody online, or another adult, or it could be another, what you presume to be a child, but it's not. Maybe they're spending more time on the screen or on the internet, or they've got a withdrawal from friends or family, or all of a sudden the kid's coming home with an expensive new pair of shoes or something like that. Like, you're like, okay, well, you don't got a job. I didn't give you money, right? Who bought those for you? Oh, Uncle Billy did. right? Well, why is Uncle Billy buying you these gifts? Right? Those, and those warning signs go on both sides. Somebody offering to spend what seems to be a longer, more inappropriate time with your child, or trying to get alone with them or seclude them. I did an interview recently with a lady, and she's in her probably about 60 years old now. She's from the Columbus, Ohio area. She was a trauma nurse, but her story starts back to when she was 12 years old, babysitting for her uncle. And, this is an in-person thing, but, the uncle reaches over and touches her chest and says, listen, a part of a babysitter's job is to get the husband ready for his wife at the end of the night. Her uncle. And then it just continued for 6 years of very aggressive and violent sexual assaults against her. And what had happened, right, is, the uncle then is talking to her mom, his sister, and builds up like how much they love having her babysit their kids. She's so great with the kids. We couldn't do this without her, kind of thing. So now he manipulates mom. And mom is now left saying, like, no, you need to go babysit for them. Like, they need you, right? And, meanwhile, he's threatening her, saying, like, if you don't do this stuff for me, right, I'm going to harm your family. Sick and twisted stuff that these guys are willing and able to do. And when you're a child, so again, this, like, we talk to our children, right? There are no secrets. There's no secrets. And number one, listen, if anybody ever tells you they're going to harm you or hurt you, if you don't do something, I can promise you one thing. My number one job as a parent is to protect you, and I will not let that happen. So long as you tell me if that happens to you. Because if you don't come talk to me, unfortunately, if I don't know what's happening, I can't, right? And I've learned the ways, like if my kids, have a sleepover or they're at a friend's house or whatever, just casually ask them. And I just look, I look them in the eyes when I'm talking to them because I care about, did you have fun and all these things. But you're just always watching. And, if anybody's listening to this, like that my kids have spent time at your house, like it's not that. It's just I developed the habit of doing it because you just want to be sure that everything was okay. And, do they maintain eye contact with me? Do they look down and away, go, yeah, no, we had fun? Or are they very specific? My kids are very detail oriented. So if they've done something at a friend's house, like they tell me all the details. We did this, we went there, right? And I'm like, there's no gaps in their story. Like it all seems fine. Their behavior looks normal. They know that they can always come to me and trust me. We're good. But you have to have the conversations with your kids. Right. And then it's fun because in our in the courses that we create for our children, the 6 to 8, 9 to 11-year-old ones primarily, we designate them as a junior detective. At the end, they take an online oath. So it's like, hey, like, when we say it, like, hey, as if, when I became a police officer, I got sworn in and I had to, take an oath that I was going to do all these things. And what an oath is an oath is a promise. And then so we guide them through an online oath where, they put up their hand and they repeat after me, this oath that we have for them. And then we got the resources. They can download the oath that, parents can put it up for them. They get their own junior detective certificate saying, they've completed our online course, and it's done in a fun way for the kids, but not in an overwhelming way. Like the course is only like 15, 20 minutes long. It's short, it's easy. We got, some test questions that they take at the end of it, just to, baseline knowledge that they know. And there's a lot of cool things that we're really, excited for in the future that we're going to be creating when it comes to the youth education side of things.
That's awesome. Your course is available to anybody, anywhere, correct?
100%. Yeah. And like one thing, so the way it works is our original course. So we have two, right? We've got like our flagship course. It's $97. And then our membership platform where you get access to all of our other courses after that, our monthly newsletter, always staying up to date on new content. If TikTok changes their settings, we're telling you. If a new platform comes out, we're telling you, is only $10 a month. And what we're active, like we, as a company and with a lot of we've got a lot of future initiatives here that I can talk about too, that we're very committed towards our revenue going towards. But we're trying to price this at a point where we're able to achieve our future-based causes and initiatives but also trying not to create any barriers for parents. But, when we're talking to parents saying, look, like if you are paying for the data plans for your kids, the cell phone subscriptions, the Wi-Fi, the premium subscriptions to YouTube and all these things, all the things that can put your hands into a predator's hands, what are you doing to pay for the protection? And you can't really not afford to have this. But a lot of our future-based stuff here is like a strong commitment to continued research and development, right? Both on the technology side of things and the advancement of always having very relevant information for parents. We're setting up what's called the Victim to Victor campaign, where anybody who has been harmed or exploited in the online world, that we can put in the trauma-informed coaching, counseling resources in place to ensure that that person is able to successfully move past what has happened to them. Unfortunately, we can't take away what has happened to them. We can't, prevent that, but we can teach them how to move forward in a way that they can develop trusting relationships again, that they can learn how to properly love somebody, that they don't become, a statistic or end up in the fallout with depression, anxiety, substance abuse, or youth suicide. And then the other component, and this ties in when I was talking about people downloading and accessing child sexual abuse material. When you look at we've got maps using, and Gary has it, using specific software that shows where this is happening. You'd look at it and go, how would a community ever bring an end to this? So we're super committed to funding resources for law enforcement to be able to fight child sexual abuse material, distribution of it, kind of one community at a time across the country, and being able to provide a lot of services to them. Looking at it, like I said, when it was traded through regular postal mail, it took somebody with some, outside the box creative thinking as to how they can end it. And that's the way we're really looking at things now and going, how can we do this differently to actually have an impact on this area in every single community across the country?
So when people pick up the course, it's not just investing in their family's protection, it's investing in a much bigger cause.
A much bigger cause, a much bigger mission, right? That's, and it goes back to me saying, like, we are very focused on creating an army of advocates, parents who say enough is enough, business leaders in communities across the country who say, I didn't know this was going on in my backyard, but now that I do, I'm on board with your mission and I want to help support it. So we got a lot of really cool things as we go forward over, the many years to come that we're focused on, and always staying on top of it, right? Like our mission of ending internet child exploitation is a lifetime mission. Like it's not one that's like here today, gone tomorrow, let's do it and move on. Like this is something we are so committed to, and creating greater social awareness around it.
So the name of our podcast is Unrealized Purpose, right? And this is definitely a purpose that you've taken on. I'm curious, like, what really sparked this? Obviously you started this project 10 months ago. What was some of the things that led up to this? Obviously you mentioned your kid being on some stranger's profile overseas,
Yeah, what really sparked it both for Gary and I, I had the online business knowledge and creation and all that. And I knew, and it's in the media all the time, all these terrible things happening. And that's when I went to Gary and I was like, look, like there's nothing happening in this area. And we both know from our own policing experience, when you deal with families and you see, as a police officer, you deal with the fallout afterwards. You're not dealing with the prevention. You're there when somebody comes into the police station and says, look, like this happened to my kid online. And we just knew like there's not enough all in one place, easy to access education for parents. And that's what really sparked is going, okay, if we've seen the heartbreak that it causes for parents, but we've also felt it as investigators ourselves. And you feel helpless as an investigator because you're there in a reactive manner, dealing with it after the cause. And that's when we're like, how can we deal with this in a proactive manner and actually connect with people and prevent this from happening?
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I love that. I know you had a few questions, Dalton. So is there Any you wanted to mention now?
I think he pretty much hit all the questions I had. It's pretty good. I think he covered everything. So what an eye opener. Appreciate you for coming on and talking about this. I know it's not an easy topic.
It's not. This mission is so much bigger than me as a person, than Gary as a person, than the company itself. It's honestly, like, I wake up, I go to bed every single night excited about it. I wake up every single morning excited about it, just in the continued development of it, and really cannot wait to just continue, like, connecting with people. We view, honestly, like, the future opportunity of creating education for educators, creating education for child protection agencies, creating education for internet service providers, creating education for a lot of people that can have a greater massive impact on this, and reaching as many people as we can as quickly as we can, because when we do that, that's when we can start to stop it from happening.
Yeah.
To kind of end the podcast here, what are some of your biggest tips, or just some advice you'd leave parents?
Yeah. One, I mean, and I'll preface this with, like, you have to build that level of trust in your household first before just quickly creating change. You have to talk to your kids about why you need some change in the household, right? So, like, one of the big ones is don't allow kids access devices in isolated areas of your house. When you give an iPad or a phone to your kid and they go into their bedroom and close the door, and they don't have the internal controls, and what I mean by internal controls is the maturity level yet not to do something that they shouldn't. If they're in an isolated area of the house, the risk factor goes up that they're going to do something, versus if they're having to sit in the couch with their device while they play a game. Designate a nighttime charging area for your devices in the house, and there's a charging station, so your kids aren't going to bed with a phone in their hands or an iPad in their hands. Utilize controls that can protect, like utilize Wi-Fi routers that can protect your family. Utilize content filtering programs. There's one called OpenDNS that's really good. Like, have those types of measures put in place. Set Google alerts onto your devices so you can get an alert if something happens, or if your child's name is used or posted somewhere online. Understand privacy and control settings of apps and social media platforms. The big one, and I said it at the start, comes down to the trust. Have just a trusting relationship with your kid. Make sure they know that you're there. And if your kid does screw up, we all did, right? Think back to when you were a child growing up, say that to mom and dad. You made mistakes too. And mistakes are all about lessons. So if your kid, we call it making a lesson, if they do that, even no matter how angry you are, give yourself a cooling down period first. If you need 24 hours to cool off, tell your kid that, right? Hey, Dalton, listen, like, I'm not right now, bud. I need some time to just calm down myself. And we're going to talk about this. And until then, you know what? I need your phone, or I need your iPad. But before we get into that, Dalton, before, I know we're going to be a little bit before we talk, I just want you to know that I love you, okay? And everything's going to be okay, but we got to work through this. And then go take your time to cool off. Let them know that you just love them at the end of the day. Like, your job as a parent is not to be your friend. It's to be their parent first and foremost. You can be friends later on in life. Okay? But make sure they know that you're there for them, even if they screw up. Because as soon as you lose your cool, the trust goes away. And so when they screw up again, you think they're going to come to mom and dad and say, hey, I screwed up. Can you help me? No, because last time they did it, they tore them apart. They belittled them. They yelled at them. They screamed. They did everything that didn't make that kid feel good. And so now the kid's not going to go to mom and dad when something happens. The trust is diminished.
Yeah. 100%.
Those are really good.
So, it's not easy. but you just, you got to take it one day at a time through this, and break it down into bite-sized chunks. That's the way we've created our courses, so it's easy to consume, so they're short, so they're entertaining. We're putting them into MP3 format as well, so if parents are like, I don't have time to sit down at nighttime and watch this, they can listen to it while they drive to work, listen to it while you walk the dog, listen to it while you're putting on your lipstick in the morning, like whatever it is. We just try to make it very easy, eliminating the barriers so parents can say, I didn't have a way, or I didn't know to be able to protect my child in this way, or didn't know that these dangers existed.
Where can people find you?
Yeah, so our company, it's called Protection, but it's spelled PROTECHTION. So it's like the tech part, TECH, Protection. So our website is protection.me. That's where they can find our website, learn all about our programs and that, and then from there it will lead them to our social media. It will lead them to our programs and everything where they can access everything.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Perfect. All right, I'll link that up in the show notes.
Amazing. I really appreciate
having you on, Dave.
Guys. This is like we're just trying to build a worldwide microphone around this issue, or a megaphone, and just, standing up for this and building that army of people that just say enough is enough. And I back this cause.
I love it. Love the drive. Love the purpose.
Oh, I can hear it in your voice. So,
yeah.
Yep.
Amazing, guys. Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate you.
Thanks for coming on.
Yep. It was great having you on.
Thank you.